Welcome back to Our Justice Journey with Dr. Ijeoma Ononuju, Part 2, and we thank you for your continued interest in this discussion. Our next question is, have you seen tokenism be used in higher education, and if so, how?
All right, I got a PhD, but I ain't that smart. You got to define tokenism for me.
Okay, so basically, I could give you like a Google definition, but basically what it is, it's kind of like, for example, like, let's say Harvard or whatever, putting like a black student on their magazine or whatever and being like racism doesn't exist here anymore.
Uh,
So the Google definition is like the practice of making only a perfunctory symbolic effort to do a particular thing, especially in recruiting a small number of people from underrepresented groups in order to give the appearance of sexual or racial equality within a workforce. So it's kind of like,
I got you.
oh, yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Uh, and so, have I ever seen it being done at the university level?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it happens all the time. Uh, but it doesn't just happen at the higher ed, it happens all over the place. I use the word that Jeff Duncan Andrade used, which is hokey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, um, I'm going to make the minimal attempt at doing something and then do a lot of publicity around that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? As a way of determining or kind of showing that I'm doing it. I've been doing a lot of thinking around character recently,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so character is what you do when no one is looking.
Yeah.
And the reason why tokenism is so pervasive in higher education is because everybody is concerned with putting, with demonstrating that they are about a certain life or certain issues, even when
Yeah.
they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like Instagram. It's like I'm only going to show you the pictures of the good. I'm not going to show you
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pictures of the bad. And so it is pervasive, and I would say like that is one of my critiques of the university that I attended. Is one of my critiques of the universities that I've worked for. Right, is
Mm-hmm.
that I they will use me as that token.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I have an interesting story to that. So the year that I graduated from UC Davis, it was 3 Blacks
Mm-hmm.
in the School of Education that graduated with their PhDs that year.
Wow.
And this is like probably like the first time that has ever happened that they have graduated 3 Blacks.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't put none of us on on nothing. And I was like, I actually went to them and was like, hey, y'all had 3 Black people graduate from your program and y'all trying to show that y'all a program of diversity. Like y'all might want to like take advantage of this because you're
Yeah.
never going to have this again. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it is pervasive in higher ed.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, feeling like the token to higher ed, like did feeling like a token to higher ed, like how did that affect you in higher education, you would say? Like, do you felt like relationships changed or like just it changed like how you kind of maneuver throughout higher education?
It does. I mean, you can't never drink the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are a lot of Black and brown folks that have drunk the Kool-Aid, and that's why they have bought into this idea of meritocracy that they are actually good enough, and that's the reason why they've gotten where they've gotten. And I'm not trying to take that away from nobody, right? Because we truly have a lot of brilliance in our communities, but the reality of it is that they pick the smartest and safest individuals that they can to
Mm-hmm.
bring into their system so that they can use them to show that they're about diversity. But in reality, the people that they're bringing in are only diverse by race.
Mm-hmm.
They're not diverse in the way that they think and the way
Yeah,
they
yeah.
look at the world, right? They're not
Mm-hmm.
going to actually challenge the system and be disruptors, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
folks who actually believe in that, right? That's where the challenge comes in. So for myself, I never even really tripped. I was like, look, if y'all want to give me a free education, because y'all feel like I'm dope and I'm black, like let's do
Mm-hmm.
that, right? But don't think that that bought my silence.
Mm.
Don't think that that bought, you an opportunity to kind of do things that I feel are shady, and I'm not going to say anything about it. I think when you are a token, your responsibility is to always reach back.
Mm-hmm.
You have
Definitely.
to embrace the idea that you can't be the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is the system going to change you, or are you going to change the system?
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes the responsibility of the token, right? Is you are supposed to be a change setter,
Mm-hmm.
and you are not supposed to allow them to change. And so, there's different ways that you can do that, but I definitely think that I always embraced it and looked at it as a positive.
Mm. Yeah, I like the notion of, if you're gonna be a token, you should use that token to make change. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
like a higher purpose, which I think is really, really good analogy, really good. Our next question is, what was a book that you read when you were young that greatly impacted you and why?
So, uh, never been a big reader.
Mm-hmm.
I think as I gotten older, that's when I started reading more. But a book that I read in high school was 1984.
Mm-hmm.
1984, it's like, I don't know, it was a book about a dystopian future, that was written, I believe, kind of in response to communism and what was happening in the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really just this idea that, like, the government can control, they control the media, and because the government control the media, they control the narrative, and because the government controls the narrative, right,
Mm-hmm.
anyone who speaks out against that narrative, like, received a harsh punishment.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting book for me because I saw a lot of parallels with what was happening at that time. Definitely see a lot of parallels of what's happening now, right? Just in
Mm.
the way that free thought has come under attack in the last year.
Yeah.
Um, I'll give you an example, right? Now, this is more of an extreme example, but it's like, say I supported Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I got like two choices if I support Donald Trump. I can either shut my mouth as a black man and not say nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if I open my mouth, everyone that's on the left is going to attack me. And even if my views aren't extreme, just because I support the man, right? I can't verbally say those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I do choose to verbally say them, then I got to go join the crazy folks on the right, and just,
Yeah.
so there's no space for me to be in the middle and to say, like, I agree with these points, even though I might disagree with, it's either all or nothing, right? And so we've gotten to a place where, like, you do see how the government controls the media, and you do
Mm-hmm.
see how, like, we're being so divided based on, like, ideas that people are either thinking one way or the nobody actually really sits down and is critical of the system anymore. And so those are the things that I really read in that book. And I've always been fascinated by book and literature that took a view of the world and really kind of pulled back the veil, and it's like, let me show
Mm-hmm.
you what's really happening. Let
Yeah.
me show
Yeah.
you what's really going on, right? Because I do think that far too many of us are like blind sheep. We just walking around, and if
Mm-hmm.
they say left, we go left. If they say right, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really fear that one day they'll look outside and say it's no longer daytime, it's nighttime. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody would be like, oh yeah, it is nighttime. And it'd be like, what are you thinking? The sun is
Yeah.
out. Like, it can't. So that's a book that I read.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that. I agree. Like I also really like books that kind of look at the world, but then I mean they make us see the world differently. I really,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that's really important. Just different point of views and just, understanding the actual truth of the world and seeing it from all different sides. We thank you for listening to part 2 of this podcast. To further listen to this discussion, visit part 3.